I'm BK Maginnis, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. This is the next video in my walking series where I walk and tell you a little more about the issues that are important to me and go into a little more detail about those. So I've got my shoes on. I hope you do too. So go ahead and hop on that treadmill, step outside, or maybe just watch me walk and talk from your computer. So let's go. So if you've seen, you may have seen in some of my other videos, I talk about how critical this election is, and that's why I'm running, the reasons why I'm running. And so today I'm going to spend some time telling you, giving you more specifics about why I think this is critical, and how, quite honestly, it might already be too late for our democracy. It may get a little wonky, but I'm going to try to keep it as basic as possible so everybody can understand pretty easily. So, since at least 2008, what Republicans have been trying to do on a national level is create what's known as an illiberal democracy. And just to kind of give a definition of what that means, it's when one party has skewed the rules so much that despite the fact that they still have elections, there's basically no way that their opposition can win, or at least win enough support in order to have any say or any control in the government itself. And some examples of that, and that can happen because there are some modern day examples of that when you talk about places like Turkey, Hungary, Poland, and quite noteworthy because in the news, Russia. Russia's another example of that. So Republicans have been trying to do that since at least 2008, and I'm going to explain to you really how they're going about trying to do that. So, some people may complain about the Electoral College and think that's part of this, and it isn't. The Electoral College is broken. It does need to be fixed. 5 times in our country's history, the person who won the popular vote did not win the presidency. And that's been twice here in the last 22 years when we talk about Gore in 2000 and Hillary Clinton in 2016. But as bad as the Electoral College is, it's actually unbiased. It could actually go either way. It just happened to have happened in Democrats or Republicans' favor here the last 2 times. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here are intentional measures Republicans are taking to make it so that Democrats can have zero control or very little control. So let's start off. Republicans will always have a natural advantage in the Senate, at least in modern times. Republicans actually haven't had, despite controlling the Senate here multiple times since 1996, they actually haven't had represented a majority of the country since 1996. And the reason being is because of urbanization, people moving to cities. There are actually more red states than blue states. And again, because the Senate is not based upon population, it's based upon every state getting 2 senators. The Senate is naturally advantaged towards Republicans, even though right now, against the odds, Democrats are able to carve out 50-seat majority plus the vice president. But all you need to know is, in a nutshell, is Republicans will always have an advantage in the Senate. In the House, what they've been doing is gerrymandering. Gerrymandering means drawing maps to give your party an advantage. And so 29 legislatures have been, 29 Republican legislatures this year are or have drawn maps in order to do their favor. Even here in North Carolina, where a state that Trump got just a little over 50% of the vote compared to Biden. In that same election in 2020, we elected a Democratic governor. So the split is about 50-50. The Republican legislature was trying to create maps to give themselves a 10-3 advantage in the U.S. House seats. 50-50 split in the population, yet they were trying to have a 10-3 with one toss-up that could go either way. So worst case scenario for them, 10-4 advantage. And that's happening all over the U.S. And so after this election cycle even, which I say why it might be too late, they could have control of the U.S. House for basically generations, and that's without even getting a single more vote than they did in 2020. So that's how they're trying to basically lock up the House. And so you may sit there and say, well, you know, we always have the presidency, we can always win by popular vote, even with the Electoral College, we can still win that. Well, 19 legislatures, Republican legislatures, have already started taking electoral decisions out of the hands of nonpartisan committees and elected officials, and putting it into the into partisan hands, specifically Republican partisan hands, or even those own legislatures themselves. So that's how Republicans are trying to take control, and why our democracy might already be lost. They have a natural advantage in the Senate. They are creating an unnatural advantage in the House that may be insurmountable. And they're making it so that even if, beyond all that, the population in states still elect a Democratic president, they can overrule those ballots and declare the Republican candidate the winner. And, you know, Trump actually tried that this past election, where if you saw in the news where they submitted false or fake elector ballots, in several key states. But the difference in this case, what they were doing is, next time those ballots won't be fake, they will be official, because they are coming from the official, now partisan hands. And you think, okay, well, maybe the courts could stop that, since obviously this is bad. But as we now know, Supreme Court, because of illicit means, you know, we have an illegitimate Supreme Court that's 6-3 Republican, Democrat, supposedly not Democrats and Republicans, but conservative, liberal, we know how they vote. You know, and above all that too, 21 legislatures, Republican legislatures, using the fake election fraud calls after the 2020 election, have implemented voter suppression laws that severely impact what they expect to be Democratic votes. So they're trying to gain control of all those branches of government, at the same time trying to reduce Democratic votes through voter suppression laws. So that's why I think this election cycle was so critical. It might actually be too late. We have to implement voter rights legislation in order to eliminate or prevent these things from happening. And those things were in place with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Supreme Court a couple years back, 2012, ruled parts of it ineffective, and that's why we've seen Republicans be able to do these things here in the last decade or so. Now, some people may go, you know, well, okay, well, one-party system, democracy doesn't really work. You know, we need one party to do stuff. Or they may go, well, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter who's in charge. Republicans, Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter. And those are the people I feel sad for, because it reminds me of a line from one of the movies from, I think it's early or late 1990s, called Usual Suspects, and the line is something like, you know, the greatest trick the devil ever performed was convincing people that he didn't exist. And so that's why I feel sad for those people, because you have a party, Republicans, who actively work against the government helping people, or working for the people, actively working against Democrats to help people, which causes there not to be anything that happened. Hey, how you doing today? Actually, makes it so that things can happen, and which would give people the mindset that, hey, we need to have authoritarian government in order to actually get things done. But here's the problem with that, and you see that in the countries that I listed earlier. I mean, specifically Russia. If you do not have if you don't have the mechanisms of accountability that come with a democracy, you don't have that push-pull. If one party has no accountability, that's what leads to corruption. And you see that when you get into autocracies, that Russia specifically is another one, with oligarchs. That's why you have the oligarchs, where again, a few people at the top use the powers of government to enrich themselves. The people, the vast majority, end up suffering. The vast majority end up suffering. That's why you see, you know, Russia's economy, even before this Ukraine war, wasn't doing well, and maybe one of the reasons why Putin instigated this. So, you know, to those people who think, oh, authoritarian government isn't bad, or it doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter which party's in charge, what's gonna, you know, it's not gonna impact me, or it's not gonna make a difference in my life, they're wrong. It will make a difference. Corruption will set in. You know, who prospers in the economy will not be based upon merit, but about who you know, how many Trump hats you have in your closet. So it will impact everybody. Well, that's all I'll have for today. I'm going to keep walking. Maybe you do too as well, or I got to get back to work. But I am BK Maginnis, your Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate here in North Carolina. And that's all I have for today. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.